Yep.
Well, can you hear us?
John, we're ready? We can crank? We're live? Yeah, I think it's coming from up there, right? From the councilman? Oh, it's these cables? Yeah. Yeah. Yo, you're live. Let's, yeah, everybody's. We gotta start. We got quorum. Yeah, we gotta start.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. Can everyone hear me? Helen, can you hear me? Wave, yes, no? Can you hear me? No, they can't hear me. Who's that on the bottom left? Oh, got it. Check, check, check. Can you guys hear me? Helen, can you hear me? Robert, can you hear me? I think you need to unmute them. Can we unmute everyone just to check to see if everybody can hear us and speak? No, the guy on the left, and no, somebody that's going to speak on something. Can we unmute them, William? They can't hear us. Can you hear us? Yes? Can you wave if you can hear us, please? Can you wave? No, they can't hear us. Let me text her. Check, check. Can you guys hear me? Wave if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
There we go. All right. Awesome. We're live. Wait, why is Helen not muted?
Wait, why am I not?
There we
muted.
go.
Okay.
Good, good. Robert, can you hear us? Robert, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm here.
Awesome. Okay.
How's it going?
Good deal, good deal. All right, so let's get this event started. I know what I was going to say, but no, we're good. All right, well, good evening, everyone. We're here for the Neighborhood Improvement Committee meeting, and we're calling the meeting to order. It is 8:36. And Mr. Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. So we have first Mr. Eddie Blanco, Felicia Salazar, Helen Roldan,
Here.
Jacqueline Baker, Javier Ley Soto,
Present.
Jesus Mendoza,
Present.
Marlene Diaz, Reynaldo Garcia,
Present.
Roberto Ibarra,
Present.
Adrian Ardilla present, Chairperson Vice Chairperson Mario Pineda, and Chairperson Rudy Lloredo.
Present. All right, we have a quorum. We will continue to item number 3, order of business, deferrals, additions, or deletions.
I have an addition to new business.
Okay,
So this would be 6C, utilization of Miami Lakes Marina.
can you speak up?
I said that would be 6C, utilization of Miami Lakes Marina. Marina. Yes,
Utilization
Marina.
to, yes. To Miami
Imagínate, se me cayó el...
Lakes Marina. Okay, I'd like to add also another item, 6D, committee rules, advisory board or committee. Six D, committee rules, advisory board / committee. All right, so we have a motion on the table. I'll motion to add these 2 items. Who seconds?
Second.
Who seconded, I'm sorry? Javi? Okay. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Where were you going, Jackie?
Sorry, I
The ayes have it. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue to public comments. Is there anyone who would like to speak from the public? Yes? All right, we have a new elected councilman, Tony Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair Lloredo. It is my pleasure to. Oh, yeah. Let me. There we go. Oh, good. Thank you guys for having me. It's all I can say is it's fantastic to see you guys. I haven't seen you in very many months. I never had an opportunity because we didn't meet for several months. I didn't have an opportunity to say goodbye. So I wanted to come here today and do that, but to also extend myself and my office to absolutely anything that you guys may need. I'm available for you. I'm definitely aware of the causes as a member of the Neighborhood Improvement Committee for over 3 years. I know what the hard work that you guys put into your items, and I just want to let you know that I'm here for you. If you ever need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you guys for all the hard work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations again, man. Fantastic job. All right. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? No? All right, we'll move on to item number 5. Approval of minutes from April 23rd, 2020, NIC regular meeting. Did everyone receive a copy of these minutes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, does anyone have any questions? No? All right,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
all right. Javier Ley Soto makes a motion to approve the minutes. Javier, second by Mario. Any additional discussion? No, seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right, the ayes have it. Minutes were approved. All right, we'll move on to item number 6A, artificial turf. So this item was brought to us by the town council and our mayor Sid, and they want to kind of to run it by us and see exactly what it is that they're proposing, and for us to review it and kind of give them a blessing and our opinion and feedback with regards to that, so it can go back to the council and then go from there. So that being said, I'll leave it to Mayor Sid.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you to the committee members for being here tonight. A lot of great faces that I haven't seen in a long time. So I missed a lot of you guys. I missed the events you guys put on. The pandemic has been very difficult, I know, on your families, on our entire community, on the fabric of our society. Okay, go over there. They can see. Okay, cool. I just didn't want the committee members to have to turn around. Yeah, that's fine. So I know it's been very difficult. Thank you guys for meeting tonight and getting together. So I wanted to give you some brief history as to why I brought up this item. I'm a big believer that our code isn't perfect, right? Our code is there. We can make it better. Things change, right? We incorporated 20 years ago. What was true then probably isn't true today, so we have to continue improving. Had a resident call me. He had built a pool, and our code requires, even if it's enclosed with a fence, that once you build your pool, that the setback, there has to be sod, correct? And I know that our building department had required that. This resident called me and said, Mayor, I'm going to put the sod in, but it's going to die. But the reason he had to do it was to pass his final inspection. His final inspection, he passed everything for his pool, but his final inspection got held up because of him not putting in sod in time, so he was held up another month. He put it in, whatever, he spent $700 putting it in, knowing that it was not going to survive long term, right? He was going to put rocks and all that. So I said to myself, all right, well, why are we requiring residents to do this, especially in an enclosed backyard, knowing that they're going to end up changing it anyways when they get their final? So why not work with people to do something more permanent and seeing already, I've seen it in driveways and different areas, it's more sustainable. I said, hey, in the rears of homes, especially when there's an enclosed backyard, I think people should have the opportunity to put in artificial grass, turf. Obviously, it has to be permeable. But I think it's important that we allow those options for our residents, right? This did not exist back in 2000 when our code was first put in place. I'm sure if it did, we would have added in there somewhere. So I want to make that change. I think it's unfair to people when they're making these changes in their backyards, whatever it may be, to be required to put in sod when there's other options that are even friendlier for the environment long term, right? You don't have to mow it. You don't have, there's pesticides and whatnot, which has caused issues in our lakes long term. So I brought it before the town council. It passed in first reading. The discussion was for staff to look into it. More and more residents are doing it. I mean, that's a reality. You drive town, you're starting to see more and more of that popping up, but I wanted to codify it so it was in our code. It hasn't gone to second reading yet. If you guys give us feedback. What I wanted was to get feedback directly from all you guys from the committee as to what your thoughts were, how we can improve it, or else, what else can we do, what other ideas you guys may have, because I think it's important to make that change and allow our residents to have that option. So my ask of you all tonight is to give me that feedback, because once you do that, this is going to go to second reading before the town council for approval for first reading. For approval and first reading, meaning this is an ordinance, a code change. This is a big deal. But I do respect the work that you guys do. I think you guys did a great job with the traffic signal boxes. It's going to get wrapped soon. I think the county commissioner is giving us the check. I talked to him a week ago, so he's going to give us the check to pay for the wrap. You guys did a great job. That's a perfect example of things that you guys, as a neighborhood improvement committee, have helped the council. If we would have had to make the decision of how to wrap that, we would still be talking about it today. And that's just the reality, right? So I really look forward to your feedback. Susanna, who's our expert on zoning, is here tonight, our zoning director, to work with you guys, to get that feedback, and to make this better, because I want to make sure that the final product is reviewed by people like you all who do a great job in our community. I do want to touch on something else, and I'm sure that Rudy's going to, Cherry Oredo's not going to be too happy with me, but I do encourage you guys, if possible, let's start thinking about it. I know it's very difficult with COVID, but even if it's a virtual bike ride, whatever it may be, there's a mental health crisis happening in our nation. It's impacting a lot of our residents, and I think the little events that we do might seem very insignificant, but it puts a smile on people's faces when people need it the most. I see it on a daily basis. The mental health impact here nationally, but here in our community is pretty wide-ranging, how many people it's impacted. So, but going back to that, if you guys can look at that, give us feedback. Susanna's here to work with you guys on that. I would like to get that feedback. Wanted to give you some of the historical as why this was brought up. I do think we need that improvement in the code, but I would love to hear from you guys as to what are your thoughts on artificial turf? What are your thoughts on, I know the town council at one point said, hey, I don't want to see it just in backyards and closed backyards. What about lakes? What about this? So just wanted to bounce it off you guys. I don't know if you want to chime in, Susanna, on.
Mr. Mayor, this is Felicia Salazar via phone. I don't have Zoom connected yet. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Felicia.
Okay, I'm asking permission to comment on the topic of the artificial turf.
Hey,
Is
give us
possible?
1 second. I know Susanna's going to chime in, and then
Okay.
I'll hand it to Chair Oredo.
Yes, if you let me go through my part first, and then we can, I'm sure you'll have a
Okay,
lot of opinions
okay.
about this, but let me
Great,
get through my part
great.
first, okay?
Nice to hear from you guys.
All right, give us a second. Did you receive, William, did you send it to her? If you open your email, Felicia, you should see an email that we sent you with the actual ordinance, the way it's written today, and the memo, which you guys don't have the memo because I couldn't print it, but if you need it, I can have William print it for them, if anybody wants it. It's very short, it's just a summary.
Okay,
and
let
I'm
me
gonna
let me
read it.
check my email because
Yes.
I got home from work not long ago and I'm trying to fix dinner too. So it's
And
kinda
Felicia, I'm
crazy
going to
here.
do my very, very best to chew
Okay,
this out
let
for
me-
you
let me
so
check the
it's
email
super
and
easy to
I'll-
understand, okay?
I'm listening to the meeting, but I can check my email as
right.
I'm listening. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Susana Alonso. I know a few of you from other things. I'm the town principal planner, and I'm basically the one that prepares all these fun stuff for the council to decide on. And my job is basically to fix the code where it needs fixing and to amend it when it needs amending and to make sure that things are the way that our community wishes them to be, that we maintain our property values, that we maintain all these things based on the code that we have. As many of you know, our town was incorporated in the year 2000 or so, which is about 20 years ago. And at that time, most of our code was literally adopted or inherited from the county. It was basically the county code that we took on, and we started modifying a little bit at a time. One giant piece that we left out at that time was the landscaping code, because the landscaping code is a mammoth. As you can see right in front of you right now, that's what you have. This 36-page thing is the entire landscaping code of the county that was incorporated in the year 2000, now adapted to the town of Miami Lakes. Because in order to begin to talk about artificial turf, first we had to adapt the county code to our own and stop referring to the county code on its own, because we don't get to amend the county code. We get to amend our code, not theirs. So first we have to adapt our code, and that's the first thing you have in here, and that's why it's so big. And then you have the things about artificial turf that are included into the new town landscaping code. Does this make sense to anybody? So that's why this is so giant and so big, because it includes...
Yeah, it does. I think it's about time that we had our own landscape ordinance. I've been asking and requesting for years.
Yes.
And I thank you for it. And now we can amend it and adjust it, make it, you know,
Yes.
stricter or whatever to
And
keep
this
our
is it.
town.
And at this time,
Felicia?
Felicia,
Do you mind?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Welcome.
I'll mute myself.
Yeah, do you mind, Felicia, if she finishes what she has to say, and then once I open it up for discussion, then we can go to you? Do you mind?
Okay. It's just that I can't see you guys, so I apologize.
No, no worries, no worries. I'm gonna
We
open
all
it up
look
for I'm
great.
gonna open up the floor for comment. No worries. Thank you, Felicia.
we all look great, and there's very little to see otherwise.
Yes, I look great, Felicia.
Yes.
Thank you.
So basically what you have in front of you right now is the erasure of any mention of the town, of the county code into our code, and the adaptation of all the words that are already in the county code into our code, fixing the things that we have fixed throughout the years. So the only change from what we've been enforcing up till today is the language about the artificial turf. Everything else is exactly as it was, only adapted to our town and removing the words county and adding town and la la la, so that kind of stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of good things about finally adapting the landscape code. You know, as Felicia is saying, we've been happy to do this before, and this is the perfect time to bring it in, because this allows us to sort of manipulate it into what we really want it to be. We cannot be any less restrictive than the county. We have to stay at least as restrictive as the county. We can restrict a little more, but we cannot loosen any of the county's regulations. So that's why it's a little bit tricky. We have some rights, some things that we can do, but there's a lot of things that we are not allowed to do because we can only be as liberal as the county, right? Here comes artificial turf. Artificial turf is not mentioned anywhere in the county landscape code. As such, is understood that because it's not mentioned, it's not allowed. And that's why right now it's enforced as not allowed because it's not mentioned. We are now introducing the definition of artificial turf. Oh my goodness, and I'm gonna have to go to my car because I have some samples of artificial turf that I was bringing to you guys and I left them in my car. So you're gonna excuse me for a little bit in a little while and I'm gonna show you what they look like. Artificial turf is something that looks like grass, but it's not grass. It's actually plastic or some composite material. It's not really plastic, but it is a composite material similar to plastic. It is a more permeable solution than other types of paving that you can have in the backyard, but at the same time, it does not qualify as natural material, which is required in some parts of your yard. So for this reason, what we have proposed, what the staff has proposed to be adopted is as follows. There's a lot of times where the code requires that you have a certain portion of your yard be open space. Open space means that there's no hard surface, right? Those portions sometimes require to be landscaped, as in landscape material, plants with roots, and sometimes they're required to be permeable materials like rocks, right? So in the instances where rocks or hardscape would be allowed, it's quite all right to have artificial turf. There's no reason that you can't have artificial turf instead of a deck, for example, right? There's no reason that you can't have artificial turf instead of rocks in an area. However, there is places where we do need to have actual plants. And the reason that landscaping is required particularly in a place like Miami is that, guess what? It rains a lot. And plants do several things for rain. One thing they do is they hold the soil together so that your soil doesn't wash off into other properties. Another thing that they do is that they suck up moisture directly from the ground. So not only you're allowing the moisture the water to drain through, it's also sucking it up right away. So it's reducing the amount of water that has to go into our stormwater system. Particularly trees, which are required in every property. You have to have 3 trees in every home. Trees suck up a lot of water, depending on the species, more or less. Grass, on the other hand, is not required at all. You do not have to have an actual stitch of grass anywhere in your property, ever. As a matter of fact, grass sod for itself is something that we have a maximum on. You can have a maximum amount of grass, but we don't have a minimum. You don't have to have a minimum of grass. And again, the reasons for this is because grass really is not a native species to Miami. There is really no grass that is local to here. There's one that is called the Agostine grass, but it's really a northern Florida kind of thing. There is other things that are called ground covers that are what you usually use to make some things look nice and pretty and green. And if you drive back to the back of Belay and the Grand property that they just did right there, there's no grass in that property. All their islands are made with a peanut something plant that is actually tiny little leaves and is actually a shrub that just grows on the ground, and a vine that grows on the ground and covers it. It looks like grass, but it's not. And you never have to cut it, and you never have to groom it, and it's actually very sustainable and has lots of roots that are sucking up water. So this is what you really need to have on the edges of your home and of your property. So for this reason, what we're proposing for the artificial turf is that anywhere where you would otherwise be allowed to put pavers or a hard surface, by all means, go ahead and put on artificial turf if that's your desire, as opposed to the gentleman that had, instead of a deck around his pool, he wanted to put artificial turf and wasn't allowed. With this new language, he would be allowed to have it around his pool in all the areas where he would otherwise be allowed to pave. And because it's more permeable than pavers and paving surfaces, instead of doing the 5 foot around the property that is regularly required for hardscape, so if you have a deck, you're required to have 5 feet all around your property so that the water rolls off of that and gets a chance to be sucked in before it gets to your neighbor, right? So that you don't turn your neighbor into a pool. In the case of artificial turf, we can allow an additional 2 feet. And instead of leaving 5 feet, we can leave 3 feet. So there's still a chance for the water to drain off because artificial turf is not as permeable as grass or as dirt. But, you know, we have a little more of a chance. When we took this to the planning board suggested that we also allow it in the front yard only in between the cracks of the concrete of those new concrete designs that have the really giant slabs, and only in a 2-inch, I think they said 2 inches or 2-inch decorative element between the slabs. And what you have in front of us is everything except that. I did not add that because that would have to be added by the council at the time of discussion of the item, because it would be an expansion of the original, because it's on the front yard, it would be an expansion of what they originally requested that we study. So if they were to add that, then that would be added to the ordinance. So that's not on the ordinance right now. And I know you have questions, so shoot. You have a question?
No. So I just want to remind you guys, I mean, this is not set in stone. That's why we want your feedback, and specifically me as the policymaker. So if we can improve it, we'll work with staff to make it better or make any changes. So I definitely want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on artificial turf, you know, on the future for artificial turf, artificial grass here in our community, and anything else you guys might think of. And the reality is a lot of our changes in the code come from residents who bring it up to our attention. It was something recently we changed the outdoor roofs, and we did that. There was a resident who brought that to our attention, and we changed the code, and that happens all the time. So I'd love to get that resident's right there, by the way. I'd love to get your feedback on artificial turf. So whatever you guys think.
Oh,
Get on your mic.
great. If you don't mind, yeah. If so Felicia, wanted to. All right, so Felicia, if you're ready, the floor is
Yes.
yours, and we're going to open
Okay.
it up for questions and answers.
Yes, my question is, this particular individual that has this issue with his grass that may die, I've seen the artificial turf in the front yards, and we have to be very careful because the way I see it is, the variance is like a little change on something in the code because it's a minor thing and it's a hardship on the person. So I see like this person has a hardship in the grass that he wants to put in his yard and he cannot grow it properly. We have to be very careful because, again, we're setting a precedent to the town code, and we don't want people to think that they can put artificial turf everywhere, like in the backyard because nobody sees it. We got to be careful because all these products, they're artificial, they break down, and in time, it's going to look ugly, and it's not going to, of course, we don't see it because it's in the backyard of properties, but we have to be very careful when we approve something. We have to see that the product complies with the code and is something that is durable if it's going to be put in a yard. And, again, artificial turf has to be put in the minimum areas. I know it has to, it has to be permeable so we don't have flooding, which is the problem that we're having on the west side because everybody paves everything with hard surface. And again, we have to be very careful when we approve this. And I would approve it just in a hardship place that the person cannot put grass and maybe rocks because, again, the grass absorbs the sun rays. And if we have something that's going to create heat that's one of my concerns that I have, and I talk about it all the time, is the heat island effect, which is, the earth absorbing, the rocks or whatever, absorbing the heat, and then it releases it at night, and then that's why we get this issue with global warming, is because people are paving everything or putting surfaces that attract heat and absorbs it and then releases it into the atmosphere. So it's hard to explain, and it's a long process of how this works, but I think that's my main concern. I think we have to be very careful when we approve this artificial turf. It has to be, and in some cases, the ones that I've seen in the front yards look nice. I think they could use little pebbles and it will look really nice, like, because otherwise, and I've seen it, in Hialeah, and we need to make it, be very careful when we approve it.
Felicia, if I can address some of your concerns really quick.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what order to go in, but I'm going to go in the order that I remember them.
Okay.
As far as the artificial turf fading, yes, that's a thing. It's going to happen. The code includes some language that says that when it starts to fade, it has to be replaced. And that would be a code enforcement situation if somebody has artificial turf that starts turning blue or usually it starts turning blue with the coloring, the decoloring from the sun. Then they would have to replace it. Also, that we have provisions here about the quality of the artificial turf that they can put in as to what the underlying materials have to be. There's a lot of detail on the ordinance as to how it has to be installed so that it's sustainable and is not leaking materials into the soil. And this is all things that the building department is perfectly capable of regulating as part of their building permit systems. Obviously, if you do something like this, it would have to be done with a building permit so that we can regulate all these items that are on the requirements of the code. At the same time, right now we're not proposing any uses in the front yard aside from the recommendation of the planning board that the 2-inch strips in the concrete slabs. So as of this moment, and unless something changes very drastically, uses on the front yard, not to mention that our front yards are already pretty strapped for space, because 70% of the front yard is taken up usually by the driveway, so that only leaves about 30% for actual dirt. Using up any of that for artificial turf, would probably be problematic, but that's something that is not in what you have in front of you right now. And as far as, I'm missing one thing.
Which one?
Just,
I know I
just
spoke about
that
the
you
same thing.
understand that this is meant to be more of a replacement for paved surfaces than a replacement for grass. It's more
No,
of,
I like the idea of that peanut.
you know what I'm talking
Actually, I wanted to put that in front of my yard because you don't have to cut the grass. I think that's a good alternative. If we cannot use artificial turf or hardscape, that is if you can put up with a little yellow flowers in it, it's a beautiful little, it's like sod, but it's not really sod. I think it's very nice, and I've seen it in swale areas, and it works very nice.
And you had a question, sir?
Right?
Right, yes. Go ahead. Ask your question. Oh, I did. There you go.
Hello? Could you hear me now? Okay. Thank you very much for the explanation. One of the things that Felicia brought up, which it does, your clarification was great because the artificial turf would replace areas that would be normally paved. So I get that part. But one of the things that concerns me is more of the artificial turf when it meets up to lake areas. Within in lake areas. So if it's just going to replace the area around a paved pool, and then not be part of the landscape going into the lake, because I would hate for somebody to take it to that dimension. My biggest concern would be the lake areas. If it's an enclosed backyard, we have to respect the rights of the property owner, and maybe they're not landscapers, and maybe artificial turf is probably the best thing that they can do to keep it neat and clean. But I think when it's exposed to lake areas, that would be the most concern that I would have.
That's why I think.
I agree.
I was going to say, I think Coral Gables recently did what we're doing, and they're said that it has to be inside of an enclosed area. But I think they only picked one vendor or one cut. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff that they did, but it's exactly what you said.
So the way it's written right now, lakefront properties, because they're not allowed to pave beyond their tie line or the top of slope, would not be allowed to have any artificial turf beyond the tie line of the top of slope. Full stop.
Could you clarify what that is? Because I'm not familiar with that.
All right, so if you have, if you live near a lake, right, and your house is up here.
Right.
Up here.
Uh-huh.
You have then something like this, and this is the lake.
Right, the slope area.
This line that all the homes basically get to is the tie line or top of slope. You can see it in basically all the aerials or just walking around. The top of it, so basically the flat part where it starts sloping down into the lake, that's the top of slope. You are not allowed to do anything beyond the top of slope other than to put in gazebo, and now very recently the basin of an infinity pool. That's it. That's all that is really allowed beyond that. So because no decking would be allowed beyond that area other than whatever is associated with the gazebo itself, and that's 250 square feet for the gazebo, you would not be allowed to have any artificial turf in that area, period.
Okay.
Right? As far as, you said something else.
The heat load, but you were saying that the artificial turf is being proposed in areas would be normally paved right now.
Correct.
And the heat load on pavement is a lot more than artificial turf. Artificial turf does have an absorbent that allows drainage, so it's a little bit different.
Right, so it is better than, maybe it would be about the same as having pavers in sand, as opposed to having concrete in the backyard, right? So it is a better solution than what people are doing right now, which is the stamped concrete or the giant slab rocks, which really have very few places for the water to drain into. So, and also it'd be a great solution for other places like rooftop terraces, second floor terraces. There's many other places where artificial turf would be even a good thing.
No,
right?
I'm not opposed to artificial turf
Right.
whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I could probably recommend some people, look, it's not working out, do something else. And it'll probably look better. My concern is just our lake areas are so beautiful. They're so natural. The greenery is beautiful. That's what makes Miami Lakes great. And that's where I think we should limit the view of anybody trying to put artificial turf in areas that are exposed to open areas where there's natural greenery. I think the artificial turf would be a sharp contrast against it.
And if that's the suggestion of the committee, I can add language to make that stronger and to make sure that it's very explicitly said, no artificial turf beyond the tie line, you know, wherever, blah, blah, blah. So even anything associated with a gazebo would not be allowed to be an artificial turf. So that would be a nice addition to it.
I would thank that consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we should put that in there.
Definitely not in the front yards.
No.
Any other comments before?
I have a question.
Yes, Jackie?
I just want to say that as a resident and a committee member, it's very refreshing that the town is looking at alternative ideas for residents. I do agree with Marlene's recommendation and Felicia's as well, but I think it's very refreshing that we're looking at outside of the box ideas for residents, not to cause them any hardship that they may have because of cost. And to point out on the grass comment, I know we recently had a massive flooding issue in Miami Lakes, in the town of Miami Lakes. But having said that, I've also noticed a lot of residents that may have in the swell areas of their homes, because of the flooding, the grass has died, and so there's dirt, there's mud in the swelling area, and I've noticed some of them, I guess, park their cars, their vehicles in that area, so the street is full of mud. And not only the street, but the sidewalk as well. I'm not suggesting or proposing to add the artificial turf in those areas, because I do think aesthetically it might not look as appealing as the natural grass, but it's just something to maybe enforce for those residents that don't keep up with
So that would be a place where artificial turf would be a big problem.
And I agree, because that's part of the county and not part of
No, not
their
necessarily even beyond that. If you were to put artificial turf in those areas and then people start parking their cars on top of it, now you're going to have basically this stuff sinking into it. It would be destroyed beyond recognition really fast and look really bad really fast.
And I'm not suggesting that in any
right.
way,
No,
shape, or form,
but it is a valid suggestion. I mean, this is how you beat it up, right?
Pedestrian traffic, not for car traffic.
What did you say?
Did you hear me there?
Can you repeat?
Felicia, quick question. Can you hear everyone when we speak?
Yes.
Okay, because what's happening is we're talking, and I don't know, maybe there may be a delay, you trying to speak, and then we have more than one person speaking over each other, so we can't hear.
Okay.
Thank you, Felicia.
No, but
Look, I'll give you guys an example of another code issue, and it delves into this, and sorry we're going off on a different side here, but for example, our code right now requires that homeowners put sod in this, like you hit it on the head, right, in the municipal swale, right? You have to maintain it. Royal Oaks, I'll give you an example. There's several homeowners of Royal Oaks where their swale is full of roots from the oak trees. It is impossible to put sod there, right? So that's something we're going to have to look at. Even with the canopy, you're requiring people to put sod, you know, that ends up dying. So, I mean, that's something else that we're looking at the code. I'm not saying we're going to put artificial turf, but there has to be other alternatives, because it's unfair, right, forcing somebody where there's roots everywhere to try to patch, you know, pieces of grass where, exactly. But for a long time, some people were getting fined, you know, they were getting fines if they weren't doing it. So that's something we're looking at to change that, because it's inherently unfair, right? So, but yeah, you hit on that. That's how the code, you know, we need that feedback, because we need to keep improving the code.
And
may I say something? May I say something real quick? Regarding the grass where the roots grow because there's no shade, there's a certain type of grass that grows in the shade. Putting St. Augustine in those areas is not going to work, I agree. But there's a type of grass called Zoysia. It's a kind of expensive, but it will grow in the shade. And that's some consideration, just think about it, you know, is an alternative to, you know, either putting the peanuts plant, which is the little flat vine, or the zoysia, which is another grass that grows in the city.
Felicia, and that's the kind of thing that we're looking into precisely, is to find different species of plants that grow into those areas that don't need the sun and that don't need the sunlight, don't need a lot of soil, that really take up a lot of space but don't need a lot of soil, and find things that work better in the shade than grass, because grass is really not something, that's why golf courses have to be over maintained, is because grass is not something that likes to be in Florida so happily. Either grows too tall or it starts dying the second you get in the shade.
That's a British, that is a British invention. If you look at the history of landscaping and gardening, it was started in England, and we inherited it in America.
Is there any of our committee members that are attending virtually? Would you like to comment on this matter?
Yes, I do have, I have a slight concern. Do we know anything about the environmental impact of artificial turf? You know, how does it affect the ecosystem or runoff, water contamination in the area? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes. That's one of the items that we looked into very carefully when drafting the ordinance, because there has been some concerns in the past about the water that drains through the plastic, right, and then the material that gets put underneath, which used to be pieces of rubber tires, rubberized, right? And when the water comes in contact with this and then sinks into the soil, there's a lot of chemicals and things that don't belong in the soil that begin to leak through from both the material on the grass and from the subsoil material that goes underneath the grass, the artificial turf. One of the things that we're requiring is that they do not use rubber material, that they do not use tire material. There's other materials that are allowed as per the EPA, and that's part of the permitting system that we're requiring that they go through. Actually, if you go into the second page of the 1717 artificial turf, is way at the end of your packet. I think it's like the 5th page from the end. And you see minimum material standards, that all artificial turfs shall comply with each of the following minimum standards. Part of those are about testing documentation, which declares that the artificial turf, yarn, and backing material are disposable under normal conditions at any U.S. landfill. Total content leach protocol, they have to, total content leach protocol test, and documentation must also be provided that identifies all components that are recyclable and all components that consist of recycled material. And this goes to precisely those types of concerns. This is the way that is being adopted in other communities around us. Coral Gables, Miami Beach has adopted language of this kind, because this is easily verifiable by the building department at the time of permitting, and we can verify what kind of materials they're putting in. Also, a very good reason to put this into our code and not continue to have people put in artificial turf without some supervision, so that they're not putting in just anything that they find in Home Depot or in Costco and come to your house and just lay it out, $15 a yard, and there you go. We're trying really to make sure that what is being put in is not something that is leaking stuff into the lakes and stuff into our stormwater system, and things that we're going to find out in 10 years that, oh my goodness, all that artificial turf is giving us all cancer. It's the kind of thing that we need to address now. Yeah.
Awesome. So that speaks a bit on the contamination side. In terms of like impact on wildlife, like birds, things like that, like I imagine there are different species that, you know, dig for worms or things like that. Would that have a major impact on that type of wildlife in our community? Yeah,
yes. Grass is a natural habitat of a lot of stuff, a lot of species. Definitely worms, definitely those kinds of, some of those things will continue to exist underneath the artificial turf, at least on the most parts that are still close to other vegetation. Other things, like in the center, will begin to sort of not be there anymore. Particularly earthworms and things like that will probably migrate to places where they can find some food, because eventually the sources of food will start running out. Again, this is a big concern if you're talking about really extensive areas. like say a football field or something like that, where you really have giant patches of artificial turf. What we're talking about in a rear yard for most single-family homes is not big enough that this would be a huge deal, because they're required to have other live plant materials around it. So the artificial turf is not going to be an artificial landscape where now you have artificial trees and rocks and, don't laugh. Some people think about it.
Question, Susana. Susana, I have a question. What's the maximum size of artificial turf that you would be allowing?
It's exactly the same size as what they would be allowed to pave today, plus an extra 2 feet around the edge. Okay, so if you go to any rear yard, what area, and then remember that this is all a game of percentages, and it depends on whether or not they have a pool and that kind of stuff. So if you have a pool, it's basically the rest of your yard minus the 3 feet around. And really big ballpark numbers, right? If you don't have a pool, I think the number is 40% that it can be paved, and the rest of it has to be natural materials, not grass. Again, grass is never required.
Another question. Is it possible to, because I know the landscape manual shows a lot of things graphically, is there a way, because I know reading, sometimes people misinterpret what they're reading, or even the code enforcer interprets the code in their own way, because I've experienced that before. Can we somehow create the same way that you go to the building department and there's like a little sketch of the fence, of how to build the fence or a detail, can we have something in our code that shows like an appendix in the back of the code that shows a detail of, how to determine the area? Because some people don't understand that, and maybe graphically they can see it better.
So we don't usually do that with the code unless it's for like parking spaces and very few other things, because it has to be very prescriptive to be able to add it to the code. Unlike the landscape manual that the county published a few years ago, which I happen to have in my office and is fantastic, which is a guideline and is not prescriptive, is a guideline and is meant to sort of like give you an idea of how things work, but it's not exactly what the code says. When we come to the code, it has to be language. The graphics work sometimes, but they really don't work for this kind of thing. The same thing that we're not using it for open space and we don't use it for any of those things is precisely for that reason, because it can be very easily malinterpreted by people that are trying to get a variance, or people that are trying to basically find the edges around what the code language says. Interpretation of the code is only me and the manager. Nobody else is allowed to interpret the code. The rest of and only because I'm the administrative official in charge of administering the code. The code enforcement officers have to consult with me in order to understand how they have to enforce things. Once they understand how to enforce it, yes, they go on their merry way and enforce. But if they have a question, they have to come and consult with me or the manager or the town manager if I'm not here. The zoning official, all these people have to, we sort of kind of all have to agree on what the code says. Do you understand? So this is not something that is willy-nilly left to some person in the field that is going to come up with an idea and decide that they're going to interpret something one way or another. That's just not how it works, because that would be kind of crazy. So it's not, even though it sometimes seems like that, but it really isn't. They do come back and they do ask, and we do all agree, and we all go back to the text and we all read it again and see how it applies to this particular instance in this particular case, and how it applies to the particular circumstance that we're looking at that time. And that's why diagrams they can be a backdoor to trouble, and we don't use them.
Okay.
All right, anyone else virtually?
Yeah, I'll say something. So I'm in favor of the item. I think it's a great idea, a great option, as long as it's in the enclosed backyard or on the 2-inch driveway in between the concrete slabs. I personally looked into it a couple of years ago. It's not a simple process. It's not just laying off the artificial turf. You got to have proper drainage and all that. The only negative thing that I had to say about it. It's pricey, and in the summertime it gets hot, really hot. But I seen it in hotels, resorts, and it looks really nice in the backyard. So I think it's a great option for homeowners that like to do something different than the pavers or the stamped concrete. I prefer it over the stamped concrete, so I think it's a good item.
Anyone else virtually? No? Okay. Javier?
Yes, thank you. I think it's a great idea of putting this together. One question I had for you is you mentioned a bunch of the numbers for the percentages in the back area. I don't see that in the document that you have here. I don't know if it's going to be amended later.
Let me find it for you. That's actually part of a different part of the code, because we like to make it that complicated. The percentages come from your open space requirements in your property in the single-family home, and I don't think that's in here because that's another part of the code altogether. What you can find in here is the percentage of maximum amount of grass you're allowed to have, and that is in this text that we're adopting right now. But I'm going to find your percentages, and they're on. And as you can see, we never answer questions without looking at the code. Even if we think we remember what it is, we don't. We look.
So while Susanna looks at it, I did want to talk about the environmental impacts, because that's one of the reasons we talked about turf and different types of turf. Believe it or not, water usage lowers carbon emissions, the carbon footprint, and more specifically, an impact that it's had here in our town is in our water system. Historically, and that's why you see the issues at the Part 3 in different places, what we use in our grass to keep bugs away, to keep weeds away, is extremely toxic. So that's one of the reasons why we even talked about turf and that as an alternative, because the maintenance issue was a little different. So I know it's important to Helen, but yeah, the carbon footprint is something that we looked at as well, and what's happening in our lakes and our water systems and all that. But yeah, that's one of the challenges with grass, especially what we're used to here in Miami Lakes. You drive and you see all your medians without weeds and stuff like that, and that takes, even though we eliminated a product about a year ago, we eliminated a product that we were using, that every city in the United States was using from to kill weeds. We're using a different procedure now, but it's all obviously man-made. It's all chemicals. So there's pros and cons on both sides. We're just trying to offer the alternatives. But while she looks for this, I will ask this of everybody. This is my item, so whatever, and I'm working with Suzanne and everybody, so whatever suggestions you guys have, even if you can't think about it tonight, just type them up, send them in, and I'll incorporate it in there, in the code change. So all the feedback has been fantastic, so that's a promise from me, especially you guys taking your time, your first meeting. You guys are getting inundated with this policy question, and now you guys see what we go through sometimes, and that's why these issues are in black and white, right? There's a lot of gray, so, and as policymakers, we got to work with everybody, so. Did you find it yet, Suzanne?
So, you good? Find it?
Go ahead.
No, if you find it, go ahead. If you haven't found it, if you haven't found it, I'll talk in the meantime.
No, I think I found it in the previous pages.
Right, so there's a section of the code called, it's section 13-1507 called decks and walkways, where it tells you what you're allowed to pave on your property, right? That you're only allowed to go up to 5 feet from your property lines with anything, and this is, again, respecting those. That's not on your packet because it's another section of the code. Now, here, section 17, what I said, 1507 -4 says the maximum impervious area permitted for driveways, walkways, blah, 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 including brick pavers set on sand in the required front and side yards shall be 60%, right? And then the total impervious in number 5 says that the total impervious areas, including brick pavers set in sand, of all the required yards on a lot shall not exceed 50%. And and this is how we start calculating how much pavers you can have and how much paved area you can have in property. You see, so this is why it's a game of percentages that, you know, takes a little tricksy to figure out how much can you pave on a side facing a street, how much can you pave on an interior side, do you have to leave the 15 feet because you're on a side facing a street, or you're an interior with 2 sides on your sides, or, you know, your backyard, how big is your backyard and how big is your front yard. So it's a little different for every property, and that's why we look at every property with a survey one at a time and go through these numbers and find out how much they're allowed to pave. And what we're proposing is that whatever they're allowed to pave right now, blah, 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 plus 2 feet.
So basically, it depends on the size of the lot.
Correct. And correct, as it does, yes.
All right, so first and foremost, got too close. Thank you again, Mayor Sid, and thank you to the town staff. I definitely, I'm all in favor of this, and I'm glad that we continue moving the BART forward, right? And we're bringing these other options to the town residents. I personally experienced that, and town staff was great, the council was great, and as long as we vetted these items really good, and I know from personal experience that they did, I'm personally in favor. So I did have a few questions, and I allowed everybody to pretty much comment. I think for the majority of the time, for the majority of the questions, they were answered. Which one was, how are we going to allow it if it's only going to be allowed in closed backyards or lake? I'm definitely with Marlene. I'm on a lake, and you know where they look beautiful. You know, and you look out, but now all of a sudden looking instead of regular, you know, lawn and grass, and now seeing artificial turf. So I would definitely add something like that beyond that slope, because you still have the ability to ask for a variance. And if you ask for a variance, and there's certain things that you can ask for it, and I guess, I don't know, if we don't put it maybe on the code, then they'll be permitted to do it.
Yeah, you're not getting a variance for this.
You're not,
That's
okay.
not happening. No, a variance is an exception to the code based on a hardship or a practical difficulty. I want to have artificial turf is not a practical difficulty. It's a whim or it's a desire and it's a wish. It's not something that is a practical difficulty why you cannot follow the code that says how you have to have your artificial turf.
So the other one is, I felt good about it, and then when I heard, so one of the reasons why Mayor Seed brought it up, it was because one of the owners who wanted to basically install it or put it down from the pool to his property line, and he wanted to basically just not pave, but put that artificial turf. Now, we are allowing 3 feet, but there's still 2 feet from that line to the fence, so 3 feet.
3.
So how are we going to overcome that? Because honestly, if I'm in a backyard, and the issue
All right, so you have requirements that you need to have a certain number of bushes and a certain number of trees and a certain number of landscape material in your property. We're in Florida. We don't get to have a completely paved yard that looks like an interior room. It's just not even natural. We're not a desert. So we have to live in the place we live, right? In the place we live, if you don't have some plant material surrounding the edges of your property, first you're going to be flooding your neighbor, which is not very neighborly. And second, you're not going to be holding your soil. So the soil, if you live on a lake, if you live anywhere, the soil is going to start leaking into your property, into your neighbor, into the lake next door, or into our stormwater system, into the street, and then we're going to have to deal with it in the street. So a little bit of plant root material around the edges of your property is required, not voluntary. This is whether you're paving, whether you put in anything that you put in, you need to have some plant material on the edges of your property, and this is by county code. This is not something we're allowed to sort of look away from, right? Now, if you're very good neighbors with your neighbor and you all want to like erase the property line and pave on out, and never complain, but that's just not how it usually works, because if your neighbor starts complaining about water going into their property, now we have a problem because we gave you license to basically drain into their property. Make sense? So in order to keep good neighbors, we keep good fences and a little bit of a setback, just so that nobody complains. And that little bit of dirt and that little bit of root systems, and again, it does not need to be grass. It can be bushes, it can be a tree, it can be, you know, really ornamental Japanese trees. It can be a lot of things, but it needs to be something with a root system that is going to hold the soil inside of your property that does not leak out.
Makes sense.
Susana?
Yes.
Regarding, because we're talking about homes, we do have townhomes around Miami Lakes.
Yes.
And I'm bringing this up because it occurred to a family member of mine that lives on Palm Spring North. She loves gardening and she has a very nice backyard, but her neighbors on both sides decided to pave, you know, from end to end, you know, with concrete. And her property ended up flooded, which is the case that you're bringing in. In the case of a townhome, how are you dealing with, because I know you have to have a certain amount of grass toward the back where the easement is, but, you know, we need to be careful what we allow people to put in townhouse
And
conditions.
townhouses, depending on what development of townhouses we're talking about, it's a little bit different. There's townhomes that have been developed as a what we call a planned area that have their own requirements for themselves. And that would be the case in Satori, it would be the case in Anchorage, it would be the case in certain developments where the townhomes were developed with their own regulations that were a little bit different than everybody else's to accommodate the smaller yards and stuff. The townhomes that are the ones that you're thinking about probably, that are ones that are looking on the lakes, like the ones in Lake Andrews or other lakes that we have that have townhomes all around, those have homeowner associations and those have their own rules as well as to how much you can pave. At the same time, the rules for townhomes are also prescribed that they have to leave some edging on the sides. But depending again on the association and depending on the way that they were developed to begin with. So I don't want to talk blanket statements about townhomes because they're sticky and they're complicated, and I have to read it every time.
What they call deed
Yes.
restriction. They have their own deed restrictions.
Correct. And it would also be, again, everything that we are talking about right now has to be also be allowed by the homeowner association. It doesn't matter what we approve. If the homeowner association decides they don't want anybody to have artificial turf, we don't get to tell the homeowner association what they will and will not approve. We're sort of like the same situation as with the county. The county gives us the master regulation, we can get a little more restrictive, and then the homeowner association can get even more restrictive. So we can only do and say what can be done town-wide. We don't get to say what gets done in individual spaces, like maybe townhomes that probably do have associations.
See, that's the tricky part.
Great.
Always.
All right. So that being said, if there's no, Javi, yes.
Yeah, I just had one more, just for clarification. So you said you guys are moving forward with this, and you wanted to get some feedback from us. So, Mr. Mayor, I just was trying to find out what your timeline is, so that way we can get you the feedback in time for your guys' next vote.
So it'll be on the agenda in January for first reading, and it'll be on the agenda again in February for second reading. So we have more than enough time. You have the last meeting will be February 14th, that second Tuesday of February. So that'll be the last opportunity to change this. If not, we'll have to bring it back.
And how would you like us to forward over any comments or suggestions you have?
Just email it to Susanna and I'll incorporate it into, on first reading, I'll make a motion to incorporate it into the ordinance.
Thank you very much.
And Rudy, on your point, and I know I'll work on this with Susanna, the Gables was a little different. So their code gave the zoning director and the building department a lot of flexibility on the setback. They said that all you need to have is an acceptable buffer. They didn't get too, although we're saying 3 feet, Coral Gables is more, you gotta have an acceptable buffer. So what that looks like will have to be in the landscape plan. So they were a little bit more liberal on that, and we're a little bit more.
Or maybe they think
Yeah.
you don't know, because an acceptable buffer is way too objective too subjective in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and have a vote, and basically the vote that I want to put is vote to provide the council with the NIC's support on this item. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Marlene seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, can we just discuss really quick? Or do we?
I'm sorry,
do we agree
Helen.
on this
Go ahead.
vote? Can we discuss really quick? I just have one more comment.
Yes, please, go for it.
So I agree with my fellow committee members. I'm in support with this item. I was just reading over the environmental portion. Suzanne, is there any way that we can make the language a little stronger
Helen,
about the type?
one moment, Helen, hold on. We have some technical difficulties here. Some static
Okay.
on the speakers. One moment. All right, try it again.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. I was wondering if we could have stronger language regarding the types of materials allowed.
Send us an email. That's what we had said. That's the type of feedback that we want. So definitely put that in writing. Send it to Suzanne and I, and we'll incorporate it into the ordinance.
Okay, awesome. Rudy, I apologize for cutting in.
And if you have anything in mind, by all means be specific, because, I don't know what exactly you mean by stronger language. I'm imagining more strict as to what kind of materials, but be specific as to what you're
Like,
concerned
make the
about.
materials more
If
organic.
you can, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
All right, any more comments? All right, all in favor, say
No,
aye.
sounds like a great ordinance.
I'm sorry, what did Felicia say? What did you say, Felicia? Can you please repeat?
It sounds like a promising ordinance or a great ordinance to have.
I'm saying it's a great ordinance.
Yes. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
All right. Thank you again, Mayor Sid and to town staff. We appreciate you taking the time on, getting our feedback. It's very important to us, and we appreciate the professional respect.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. I look forward to
Thank you,
seeing you guys
Sultan.
when we get
Great job.
the wraps done. I think that'll be a nice day. We'll invite everybody out there. But then you'll have another issue on your hand. I bet you when we put up those 4 wraps, everybody else is going to want them around town, everywhere else. So it's a good problem to have. So
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to item 6B. Drive like your kids live here. Signs. All right, so I'll make it quick. We took a lot of time. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, you need a mic.
I need a mic.
Yes.
My apologies. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure that I'm clarifying what we're going to be reviewing. We're only going to be reviewing the articles that change the artificial turf section. That's it. And giving our
Pretty
comments
much,
on it?
yes. Any other feedback that you personally have
Okay.
to send to them, then that's what we do. As a
Okay.
committee, what we just did is we basically bless the item, say, hey, look, it looks good. We want
Right.
the council to continue forward with it. But if
Okay.
there's any other specific items you would like to see there, then that's what we email to town
Okay.
staff and the mayor, and then they were incorporated on this amendment.
Okay, so we're going to review everything
Yes.
in addition to the changes? Okay.
Individually. You know,
Okay.
if you guys have persons, it doesn't have to necessarily mean as a committee. If you as an individual would like to provide
Yes.
more information or more feedback or something that you would like to see in the code, then you email that directly.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. All right, so item 6B. So for those of you that are virtually, does everyone have their phone and you can pretty much open your emails really quick? I have a picture here. I know that you can see it. And that's basically in the front of my
Yes, I did
house.
see the picture.
Did you see it, Helen? Oh, who's that? Felicia,
This is
did you?
Felicia. I did see the email, and I've seen the signs around the mini parks around my area. Great idea.
So basically, this is actually a public safety committee initiative that they have been working, from what I heard from their chair, for a long time now. And I thought it was a tremendous Awesome. Fantastic idea. Where some people may think, oh, this is an eyesore, it doesn't look good. When you were talking about safety, and we're not talking about only kids, we're talking about elderly, okay, that we have out there crossing the streets, going on the sidewalk, and anybody for that matter that's going through our town, safety should be, if not the top, okay, in the top priorities of not only the town, but I would say everyone pretty much as a resident. So I want to pretty much, in a nutshell, get some of the funding that we have. That's the reason why we have the budget there that was approved by the council. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have our bike rides, as we all know. And I wanted to grab that first month, which was in November. It's typically the first month that we have the bike ride, and allocate those funds to purchase additional signs and help the safety committee to continue promoting safety, and help them out, pass out the signs to our neighbors. So that's basically what I wanted to bring to the table. I'm open for suggestions, comments. Okay, Marlene.
So, Mr. Chair, I think they're great signs. Unfortunately, the material and the way they're placed is not conducive to being a long-term item. In my neighborhood, they've placed them. Today, I was walking my new baby grandchild. I'm a grandmother.
Congratulations.
And I literally put her on the side because half of it had blown off, and the little metal stick, and I was trying to put it back in. So I don't think, although I think the purpose is excellent, and I think that we're known for our parks and for our kids, and we want to promote that, I think the material that was used is very temporary, if at that, and something else needs to be considered. When I saw them go up, I thought it was great. I think the signs are a little bit too big, and I think they're a little bit of an eyesore. I think they're very much needed, but I think we need to, before we start spending good money after bad things, I think we need to come up with something a little bit more permanent.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Jackie?
I actually concur with her, and the reason why I say that is because where I work in Shenley Park, actually when you drive around Shenley Park on 62nd Avenue, there's signs similar to this one, but it's different. Instead of being a metal with the sign, it's actually made out of plastic, but it's stronger, and residents do have it along their houses. For people that are like going through 62nd or the inner streets throughout that area, so that they could see it. But actually what I can do though is take a picture and share it with the committee. I can take a picture and share it with the committee to see if that's something that maybe you guys may want to consider.
Of course.
But it's throughout Shenley Park, and if you drive by there, you'll see it. And it's actually really cute because it's like a plastic sign of a child. So
Yes, I have
agree with
seen those.
Marlene.
Very nice.
Yeah, they're sturdy, so.
Okay, anyone attending virtually? Oh, wait, Ray, sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
I did see the signs as well. Can we make them permanent instead of just keep on ordering
We
plastic
could. I will tell you one thing. I briefly spoke to the chair of that committee, and I can tell you that this was, and please do not quote me on this, she said this was a 2-year project. 2 years to get this little red sign out on yards. And actually, just so you can know, they were initially made for our pocket parks, okay? They were not made necessarily for the homes. They were made, that's the reason why you see them in all our parks. Also, they're not supposed to be on the swell. Some of them were incorrectly placed on the swells. They're going around putting them inside of the park. And, but she did have a 2-year process for something like this. So I have some remarks to what Marlene said and everything else, but I'm open for suggestions. I think that it needs to happen. One way or another, it needs to happen because I'm not going to say the majority, let me take that back. A good percentage of the people that are speeding in our town are residents. We're talking about inner streets, not 67th Avenue, not 82nd, not 87. We're talking about inner streets. And something needs to happen. And what cannot happen is a dead child, a dead human, That elderly person, that cannot happen. So something needs to be done. And I'm glad that this was done. And I wanted to piggyback and give them whatever support we can give them, not only monetarily, but, supporting them on this idea. So I'm all for any kind of signs, color, whatever we can do, but it needs to happen, and we need to continue on promoting this to make it a point,
Maybe
not
we
just, slap a couple of signs and call it a day.
Like she said, like they're an eyesore where they're at now, but maybe we can use the light pole and build permanent signs and put them in the center of the, or halfway blocked in the same manner that we're putting them around. But make them permanent.
Right. So this is what happened. And let's be realistic with each other. Right, Mark?
Just before we continue on with the signs, I remember when I got on the NIC, it was because of the speeding on the inner roads. And just a thought, if we have the speed limits already on the streets, and I'm just, just being devil advocate here, do you think that these signs are really going to make a difference? I remember when JC was on here, we were trying to get speed bumps, and that was a huge issue. My point is, if we're going to spend this money on these signs, are they really working? Are they making a difference? Because even the residents, they see the 25-mile-an-hour sign or the 30-mile-an-hour sign, and they still speed. I don't think that a sign is going to deter someone for speeding, more than a police officer giving a ticket is. I don't think that these signs are the answer to the speeding problem that we have on the streets. Are they nice? Is it something that aesthetically that we can see, and that maybe it's a reminder that we shouldn't speed? But those that are speeding, those that are constantly speeding, I don't think that this sign is going to deter them from keep on speeding.
I think the message, it's actually, when I read it this morning, drive like your kids live here, it's not the 35 miles per hour or the stop sign, but when you read the message, I think it touches some folks, not all of them. Half of the folks that speed around this town are probably 20 years old and don't have kids. But again, we do have the older folks that are speeding and don't give a crap. And, when you read the sign that says something like, hey, this could be your kid, I think the sign has a good message.
The sign is a conscientious
Honestly,
reminder.
that's what I wanted to hear. Do you feel, as a community, do you guys feel that the sign, do they make a difference?
I think so.
For me,
I think the sign is a conscientious reminder, and anything, sometimes we're doing something and you come across something like that, and it's like, shoot, I'm overdoing it. But, when you have to bend the metal again, just so the wind that blew it and made it go this way came that way, and then you reposition, I don't think it's very indicative of our neighborhood, and I don't think it's very indicative of the type of neighborhood we want to promote, where we're putting signs that don't really look like they were really thought out very well. They're kind of they're put in, but kind of not like somebody really planned them out, and they're put in my opinion, they're not going to last. I mean, I can tell you that the one by our park, the one in our neighborhood, they did about 3 of them, which was really nice, because right when you went into the neighborhood, you saw it, and I thought it was great. Well, that one's gone already, because it's not permanent. It went away. Whoever didn't like it took it away, or maybe the wind took it away. It was really windy. And the one in the little park by my house, I'm telling you, I fixed it. I fixed it today, because I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't stand seeing it sideways. So we need, I think if they spend 2 years coming up with a sign, thumbs up, I think it's a conscientious reminder of doing something good. But I think we need to come up with something that's more conducive to where we live, and something more permanent.
So go ahead, Jackie.
this is something real quick. If I could just add 2 things. Number one, the sign did
Hello, can you hear
resonate.
me?
The sign did resonate with me. I saw it in the park on 89th Avenue, and it resonated with me because I'm a mom of 2, but that's number one. Number 2, what I wanted to say is, I have some of my neighbors personally that have asked me, you know where I live and you know where I live. And so I have some neighbors that have
we don't
asked
know where
me.
you live. Where do you live?
Oh,
I'm
I don't know,
just kidding.
somewhere in space.
Somewhere in Miami Lakes.
But I have some of my neighbors that have asked me if we could consider on my street, or maybe even on 89th Avenue, having the speed bumps. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's a lot of people speeding down 89th Avenue. I don't know if it's because of Barbara Goldman, that they want to get to school on time. I don't know the reason, but maybe if we can collaborate with that committee, and maybe look at the speak with the police department strategically to see where the trouble areas are in terms of speeding. Because I'm sure it's not just everywhere, I'm sure it's in designated areas, and I can tell you 89th Avenue is an issue. So maybe you may want to put signs all over 89th Avenue, I'm just saying.
And I'm sorry that I don't have enough information from the Public Safety Committee, but first let me go to virtual before I reply. Any of you, any other committee members attending virtually, would you like to comment?
I'm hearing I think everyone that says something, I kind of agree with them, and then someone says something else and I agree with them too. I saw this sign recently driving, and I mean, I don't have children, I don't speed around town, so like my immediate reaction was it's an eyesore. But I did see the benefit of having some sort of sign in place. I agree with some of, what people have said about maybe it can be more attractive, or maybe it can be more strategic. Maybe we can figure out what are the areas that we see more issues, and put more permanent signs there, like be strategic with the money that we give public safety, instead of just, giving the money and having like very cheap signs that aren't going to last very long. I think maybe that could be an option. I'm not sure how much money we have to give. I was looking at the budget, but I don't actually know how much we have left. So, do we have that figure, Rudy?
For the bike ride, or how much we're going to give them? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. What's the money that you were considering?
The bike rides.
That's
yeah,
6,500.
The 5,500. $5,500.
Okay. $6,500 for signs?
No.
That's a lot of money.
I'm saying $5,500 is what we have allocated for the bike rides. I'm not saying that we're going to give them $5,500 for the signs.
So you're asking to give them just one bike ride's worth of
money.
Of
correct,
money.
Which that was about, give or take, $1,200. So So I got you, Helen. Thank you. I appreciate your feedback. Anyone else virtually?
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, Felicia, we can hear you.
Okay, it's just that I'm having trouble with my phone. Okay, now I'm just making sure that my speaker is working.
So I'm going to address the eyesore. I'm going to address the type of sign. Is it an eyesore? Yes. Is it catching people's attention? Yes. Because before then, and I can tell you personally, what happens is when you put up a sign that's very nice, very pretty, very flowy, right? That goes with everything, what do you think happens?
It disappears.
It disappears. It doesn't bring out a point out there where, hey, I agree with you. As a matter of fact, I love the red because it caught my attention. As I was driving, I'm like, what is that? Now, does it look like election time? Yes. Do they look cheap? Yes, 150%. Do 3 of them around my neighborhood got banded already? Yes, I agree. However, I don't think this or any other sign, like Mario says, can fix the problem. But it will help. It will help put out a temporarily message to say, guys, you need to reduce the speed within this industry. You want to go speed somewhere else where you could do that, please proceed. But, specifically in my street, I live on Lake Patricia Drive. And I was just talking to another neighbor. Last time you were saying that JC brought it up, supposedly they said that it couldn't go in the streets because there were main arteries and it prevented traveling time for first responders.
That was for the speed bumps.
Right, with the speed bumps. Because that was brought up, it was, so we're like, okay, well, that cannot be done, okay? Are we gonna put a police officer on 500 yards of street, 5 blocks, to start giving tickets? Well, we all know what's gonna happen. The mayor and the other 5 or 6, there what, 7? 5? How many councilmen? 6? Okay, so all 6 of them are gonna get hundreds of emails from town residents saying, what is this? Are you serious? We got potholes, we got broken sidewalks, we got trees that are not trimmed, but now you want to stand at 7 o'clock in the morning where I'm going to work, or 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm coming from work, to give me a ticket after I pay you $12,000, in taxes? Like we had a resident that showed up here at the last council meeting and said, I paid over $10,000 or whatever the amount was to be able to park, or I think she was saying that something to do with a hurricane, and that she parked, I think it was a boat, that she parked in her backyard, and she was just insulted at the fact that they gave her a violation or a warning. So where do we stop? Where does it stop? When my child or your grandson goes out on the street to catch a basketball and gets run over one of these people that are speeding? And then what's going to happen at that time? Oh, and by the way, Marlene, there's nothing personal against you or Helen or anybody who wants to get signs that look very pretty. Then what are we going to do at that time? Are we going to look back and say, you know what, we should have done better redesigning these signs, right? To capture the eyes of a driver.
You're just speaking of the material they're made of.
I honestly, I really do like the red. I don't like the way they were placed because it seems like it was not well thought of. Like I like when you go into a neighborhood and the first thing you see is, drive like if your kids live here. I think that's monumental.
The message, right.
But some of it is, it's like, oh, let's put one here. I think I'll go put, it didn't look like it was done very properly. It wasn't even done like in the right of ways or
It has to be planned. It has to be planned property.
Correct.
And you have to see the flow of traffic. Who's benefiting from the signs? Not just put it anywhere just for the heck of putting it in. I think it's something that we have to think through it and find a solution. I know people are people, and we're not going to change them, whether you're young or old. So it's not easy. I think it's something that we can, as a community, we can have an advocacy group about issues. We have lots of advocacy. I can't even say it. Advocacy groups about mental issues, environment. There's a lot of topics that we can discuss about in the community, but the issue here is the signage, and I think they're effective. It has to be a better material. I think the red is effective. People may not like it because it's an eyesore, but we can find a solution. We have to just, I think the concept is good. It's just a matter of implementing it properly.
I agree, Felicia. I agree wholeheartedly. And you don't want to continue to put money into something that continues to break and continue. We went into it for 2 years. It's been approved. I think it's a great concept. We live in the kind of city we should be protecting our kids and having this kind of conscientious reminder. But we need to get something that we're not continually replacing or look bad.
Yeah, it's called a police officer.
I'm sorry?
That's what we need to get. I mean, have you ever driven through Miami Springs? Has anybody driven through Miami Springs to Ludlow?
Yes.
You know you don't speed through Miami Springs.
I think it is 15 or 20 miles per hour. Nobody
Exactly,
goes through it
because if
nobody-
you speed through Miami Springs, you're gonna get a ticket.
Yeah.
That is what we need to do. That is the idea and the message that we need to get out. That if you speed through the inner streets, you're gonna get a ticket, and I guarantee you that's gonna stop people from speeding. The signs, yes, it consciously, you're looking at it, but the solution, the end solution. Just like Miami Springs, you don't even now they don't have as many cups as they used to, but you still don't speed through Miami Springs because you know that if you do get stopped.
Remember that street is not a main thoroughfare like 67th Avenue and 154th. Those are drive-through. I mean roadway that you're talking about is connecting Okeechobee with 36th Street. And the traffic there is very local. We're dealing with the issue of 154th, 87th Avenue, which I think doesn't have that much traffic, and 67th. And it's impossible to slow down that traffic because that's a county road, or I think it's a county road, and we're not allowed to slow the traffic.
But Felicia, I think the problem that we're having is in the, inside the inner streets, where we have the kids playing outside and the cars are speeding, as opposed to 154 or 87 Avenue.
No, I understand, and like I said, Miami Lake Way North and Miami Lake Way South, there are our local roads. Because of the configuration of the town, the way it was planned, is like a snail or a nautilus, and that's why we have those main thoroughfares, and then we have the local ones, which one are the ones you're talking about. So those are maybe the ones that we need to focus on and see what we can do.
Thank you, Felicia. Javier?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So one quick question I have for you is, have we been requested for a certain amount from the Public Safety Committee that they would like us to help contribute, and what are the costs of the signs? Because I think what we can do is on a short term provide a level of monies to provide for some of these more disposable type as they're moving forward, but with the expectation that they that they really seriously look into about getting more permanent signs in areas. So that way I think we'll achieve in helping out our our sister committee and move forward. So I don't know, is there an amount that they've requested from us, or are we just simply providing them just an open amount of money?
They did not. They did not. This was just an initiative that I personally have, that I had when I saw the signs. I thought, was a good idea. So no, I just put together one of the bike rides. I know they were very cheap, inexpensive. That didn't cost a lot. I don't think they had a huge budget either. I think they were just trying to get a kind of like their foot, inside the door, get a message out there, get the ball rolling. So no, I just basically say, look, we can get this funding, get some of the signs, not necessarily go in the pocket parks, but give them within our neighbors so they can put it in their lawns. But no, I don't. I know that they're fairly cheap. Like they only spend it a few $100s. For these signs, and I think it's like 50 per box.
Sure. Well, then I would like to just make a motion just to provide $500 to the committee, up to $500, depending on their discretion, if they need assistance in your conversations with them.
I'll second that motion. All right. So now we're going to go into more discussion. So I agree with everybody. Everybody has a valid point. Right? It is Miami Lakes. We don't want these election-looking signs throughout the entire year. I'm 100% with you. But something needs to be made. Something needs to be done. And we need to get that ball rolling sooner than later. Because I tell you one thing, I don't want to sit here 2 years to try to come up with a design for a sign and a location. And the reason why these were done, because they were able to be placed on town parks. Mm-hmm. The other signs or the ones that it appears that we're trying to promote here, are going to be like speeding signs. And they're going to be put throughout the neighborhood. So now you're talking about studies, approval from the county, what kind of designs. I mean, you're talking a lot. This is not going to be, so I was looking more to what Javier just said. Hey, what can we do right now? How can we help them promote what they're already doing? Can we buy a few more signs? Can I knock on a few more doors like I did with, neighbors, and we can just place them? Kind of just to get the message out there. I like the fact that we want to say, hey, Rudy, we want to go beyond this, right? We want to make this a permanent thing, not just a drive-by thing. But right now, we need to do something. So you hit the nail right on the head. That's what I was looking more like. Let's help them now with what they're doing, and if the committee wants to pursue, further with these signs, then I'm all for it.
Mr. Chair, may I ask, before we make a motion to approve, can we ask them to keep, since there's a design already, is there any way that we can just entertain slightly to make them a little bit more durable, because, again, they were installed, we had wind come by, and they were uninstalled. So I think what you're looking for is to promote the safety, and once they're gone and bent, they're thrown out. So if I don't mind not only the 500, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the committee, we haven't used any of the money. If we can make more solid signs and keep that design and properly place them, not kind of place them wherever, I'm all for giving them everything we have for the bikes. We didn't use it. We didn't use any of the money, and I think it's great to help safety, and I think this is the town that should do it. But to continue to add to what they just installed, I don't think it's proper. Again, you're spending good money after bad. If we can just get the same sign, but somehow anchored or done just a little bit more solid, I think our money should go to that, and then monies continue to keep improving and keep adding them. That would be my suggestion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I
So-
have a question.
Yes.
Of course, we need to think through it and determine which are the best location for the signs. Because I know right now they have them in the pocket parks. There are some areas that do not have pocket parks. I just thought of if we're going to put them in the pocket park, because I don't want to have tons of signs all over our town. I mean, otherwise it's going to look like, an urban area full of signs, ugly signs that they need to be anchored properly when there's a hurricane and blah, blah. Is there a possibility that maybe, because I know that pocket parks have those duck poops collections, that we could put them on that pole already? It's already there. It's just attaching it to it, and maybe made out of metal, and attach it to it. And as people drive through, I know it may not be very visible. We need to study that. But maybe we can attach it to that pole, and it'll be more permanent.
Okay, thank you, Felicia. I was looking more, not necessarily on any town property, but more residential properties. More like, I call my neighbor, and I say, hey, would you like to place one of these in your yards? The same way that you did for the upcoming election. And like 3 of my neighbors said, it says, Rudy, please, on a heartbeat. They grab the signs, and they went and put them in their yard. That's what I'm not looking for necessarily to put them all around the town. I think that the Public Safety Committee already is doing that.
Correct.
And they're putting it on these pocket parks. Okay, I'm saying more just my neighbors or the neighborhoods, just promoted that. Put it on your lawn, and that way everybody in your neighborhood can see it and say, hey, slow down. So that's what I'm looking. Putting it in the parks.
You're thinking about maybe one, because we don't want 3 or 4 on the same street. Maybe select one person or 2 persons in that street.
Felicia,
Because
I
otherwise you'll have.
would have capped it off. To be quite honest with you, during election time, there's hundreds of these all over the street.
No, I know. And I don't someone brought a political sign to put in my yard. I said, no, I don't agree with those.
I put many in my yard. One second, Tony, from what time to what time during election time? I know there's a time for how many months? 90 days before election. Okay, so these signs are allowed 3 months before election day. So I feel comfortable enough to have these signs up for 3 months, okay, wherever they want to put them. If they want to have 3 in my yard and 3 in my neighborhood back to back, I don't have a problem with that. Yes, Javi?
Mr. Chair, I think we're going a little far from where our responsibility is.
Absolutely.
I think what we're doing is providing the monies over to the Public Safety Committee and let those decisions be within their committee. And if anybody would like to address those issues, I think it's best addressed with their committee. And I have no problem with also taking a friendly amendment to my motion, not only to have them, to provide the $500 for them to purchase these temporary signs, but also to have a strong recommendation from our committee and commitment from our committee, I believe, that if they were to get more permanent signs, or the same design, but on a more permanent type of material, that we would be able to contribute a little bit more in the future.
Correct. But
I'll amend my
like
motion.
he said, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. I think that the placement of the signs should be up to the Public Safety Committee and so on. So I think we just need to decide how much money we're going to give them to them. And if amending, what we say, saying that if you make the signs more durable, we'll provide more money. I think that's something doable. But again, us deciding where we're going to place it and all that, I don't think that's in our realm.
One of
Okay
the
with
things
that?
that I think is important is the HOAs. So if we give the HOA directors the signs, there's certain placements in the entrances to neighborhoods that I think create more of an impact. I mean, I know we placed it in,
I agree.
in our neighborhood, so when you're coming in straight into Lake Martha, you have it there. We have a cul-de-sac, we have it in front of the cul-de-sac. So we literally took the signs that were placed. I don't think, is this, like, this is being recorded? Oh, well, what the heck, I don't care. I've never been politically
It
correct.
is.
Why start now?
Now we know who took the signs.
We placed them where we knew it would have an impact. So when you drive into the neighborhood, you actually see it, and then you go to the cul-de-sac, there's one in the cul-de-sac, and so on and so forth. I think that, you know, if we make them durable, we tell public safety that they look great, we thank them, but they need to be something that is not an eyesore and falling all over the place. That we will partner up with them and give them more money, and also that the placement of the signs needs to be a little bit more well thought, where a vehicle is going into an area and that's where you place it. I know you want to have it in everybody's yard. I
agree.
hate political signs, so it's that's what they look like right now, and if we
Right.
place them nicely, I think the message will get through.
Of course. Okay, any more
I
discussions?
agree.
I agree.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support. I think this is a great thing that we're doing, and what I don't want is I don't want this thing to drag and not be able to go out there and you know, and help them in the best possible way that we can. All right, next item is item 6C, brought by our Vice Chair, Mario. Floor is all yours.
Okay, so throughout the whole COVID, I was trying to figure out things to do in our town. And one of the things that I noticed is that we have a beautiful marina, but we're not utilizing the marina at all. Okay, we utilize it one time a year for I think for the Father's Day fish tournament, and we haven't done it for the last 2 years there. So I thought about what we could do, and I found a company that will provide us everything that we need, from paddle boards to kayaks to tours in our lake. So I would like to pass out some information on that company. And actually, he's in a Zoom meeting with us, and he's actually going to talk a little bit more about what they do and what we could bring to the town, and how we could utilize the marina more than we do now. So, Manuel, are you?
I'm here. Hi, everyone. I want to thank Mario for inviting me and the entire committee for inviting me to speak today. It's actually pretty funny. When Mario contacted me, I had been driving in the area days before because I saw the dock located right next to Lake Ruth, right next to the Optimist Club. And I had just been there days before, so I saw the infrastructure. I was familiar with the space. I had never been there before. So it was interesting to get the call from Mario. Calls like this are common. Currently, I have one of formerly 3 locations across the county. But our main location is in Pelican Harbor Marina, and that's where I offer the extent of our services, which if you guys hear any background noise, please excuse.
We hear you perfect.
Yeah, so yeah, that's where we offer the extent of our services, which include rentals, mostly rentals, but also tours. And we operate basically 24/7. What that means is from sunrise to sunset, we offer the rental service. And then after hours, I offer tours where the kayaks or paddle boards have lights on them. As to the Optimist Club, where it's more of a river and lake type atmosphere. It's something I think is going to be great for the community, considering it's very safe, and it's something that's local to everyone. A lot of the times, the problem is in some of the municipalities or private companies that contact us, they're not equipped with the infrastructure. So I think it's a great thing that maybe preemptively the town put in these docks, but for something like a kayak and paddleboard rental concession, I think it's great.
One of the great things that iPaddle does is that we don't have to worry about having all the paddle boards and the kayaks out there in the marina. He provides everything for us on a schedule basis. You have to make an appointment. It's not basically just show up and paddleboard or kayak. So you make an appointment. He comes out with the paddleboard or the kayak, and then at the end he takes everything as well. So Manny, I don't know if you could explain a little bit about that as well.
Well, so that's basically how we started the company. As a mobile service. So we would deliver virtually anywhere, but mostly to homes that have water access. We've evolved from that with some of our locations. And yeah, I was thinking hopefully more along the lines here in Miami Lakes, something that I was hoping to talk to Mario about, but now that here in the meeting, potentially having a space allocated for, people to walk up and know that the service is going to be available to them. That can change. I think starting out, it would be more of what Mario mentioned, using our mobile resources to come by appointment or as scheduled to come to the location and then leave. But ideally in the future, if it's something that the town likes and the residents like, I definitely want to look forward to being a more permanent a more fixed part of the community.
All right, thank you so much, Manuel. We appreciate your time, and more than anything, waiting there patiently and listen to our internal housekeeping items here. So we appreciate it. Mario, thank you for bringing this up. I think it's a great idea. That marina, under being used, I think that's an understatement. So I love the idea of having this. I do have a couple of questions, Manuel, for you. Sure. One, have you visited, inspected, or assessed our marina? And if yes, do we have the infrastructure to provide your services?
Well, there's water. So we like to think that anywhere there's water, we can, make it happen. But particularly to where I haven't seen, so to answer your question, no, I haven't seen it up close. I've seen it from across the river, actually. So, I mean, relatively speaking, I can.
It's a canal.
I'm sorry?
Connected to, that's a canal that goes east to west and then connects to Lake Ruth, which is a huge lake, which is also underutilized. I think there's a potential to do something with that lake. But yeah, you really need to study the area. We had a couple of fishing tournaments there, and it was not safe, in my opinion, to have the kids, because the dock itself is like a floating dock and it moves. So that's why last year we moved it to the other lake, what's it called? The
Commerce, I think, huh?
The one on Commerce Way. And that was very successful because that's where we had him originally. But that dock, I think it has the potential. It has been underused. I think we have to really see what we can do there. Obviously, we cannot do tours because there's nothing nice to look around in that, unless you go to the residential area, which I don't think people would like to have people looking into their property from the canal. So yeah, that's something to think about. And I think originally the reason we had the fishing tournament is it was a recommendation from our other committee to utilize our lakes. I think it's something that that's what our name is, Miami Lakes. So I think if we could do something with that marina connected to Lake Ruth, I think it would be a great idea.
I do think that we could do some tours, especially during the Christmas time with the lights. you know, I think that would be something, you know, interesting and cool to do. So I understand people don't want to, you know, see your backyards, but I know some people like to decorate their homes, and I'm sure that would be something interesting to do on a kayak and check
Lake
out.
Ruth is behind a lot of industrial areas. That's the problem. Only a small portion of that.
So,
you know.
So Manuel, and I'm sorry, what Felicia was trying to tell you, I think she was actually trying to correct you. And when you said river, it's more of a canal.
Oh, a canal. Excuse me.
No. But what he was saying is that he can see it when he goes over the river, but there's no river. That's a canal. That's what Felicia was trying to correct you. Okay, so.
The only river we have right now is the Miami River, which is the one that divides Hialeah from Miami Springs, and that is the Miami River. That goes all the way, I don't know where, and then it goes into the bay.
Right, I stand
Manuel,
corrected. So, yeah, I was standing across. I've seen it from across the canal. I know there can be some issues with floating docks, and I'd like to understand more how it became unsafe. But I would get a better view once I actually saw once I get a better look at the infrastructure. I think Felicia has a great point about people looking into. I mean, it's just a dynamic. It's something that's popular in Miami Beach when you're looking at Star Island homes. Not to say.
Yeah, no, I have toured the river. We had a very nice tour. We went really deep into the where not everybody else goes to, and it's a great tour. And I recommend if you get a chance to tour the Miami River, do it. It's a beautiful trip. There's even caves. There's even caves that we didn't know we had caves in Miami, and we do have caves.
Wow.
All right, Manuel, my second question is, after you go out there, USS, I'm assuming you would provide some kind of business plan, and will you propose? And if part of that proposal, I know you mentioned that at the beginning, was based on reservations. Are you open for, bringing at least, I don't know, maybe 5 or so if somebody wants to do a walk in and all of a sudden you have one available, is that an option?
It's something. Right now, the demand at our main location, it would be hard for me to say immediately. But yeah, I've actually provided Mario with somewhat of a proposal, so just kind of an outline of our services.
Okay.
But, I mean, it just really depends. It depends on how fast things move along, and and the demand. Really, I mean, once I make it available, once I get obviously authorization, and I can make it available. I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean,
okay.
I've hosted groups as large as 50 people. Not to say that hopefully we'll get that many people out on the water there.
All right.
But just to touch on Felicia's concern about, people looking into other people's houses, I think I would concentrate most of the activity within the lake, where, like she mentioned, most of the industrial parts are, but still definitely an opportunity to see wildlife. And for anyone who hasn't been introduced to the sport, a tour is sometimes things that
we need
the option that we prefer, as opposed to just getting the equipment. Even though I do, I give a brief instruction on how to use the equipment, and I show that there would be a map on display of the areas that were appropriate and not appropriate, or allowed and not allowed.
One thing that we can do now, because I know Lake Ruth is very I get these ideas, crazy ideas sometimes, is we could do like they do in the Miami Marine Stadium, is do races, like use the lake itself as a sporting place.
Absolutely.
And that will bring a lot of people to around the area and have something floating, and it could be something very nice.
That's a great idea. I mean, as far as stand-up paddleboarding goes, there are a lot of things like races or group-style things that are done, like stand-up paddleboard yoga, that the lake would serve as a great arena for. And then I heard fishing. I've been hearing mentions, people mentioning fishing. I didn't think anyone would bring up fishing in this call, but it's something. It's why I visited. It's how I found the dock. I was searching for fishing places to fish, truthfully, and so I do have experience. I have fished Lake Ruth, and I think only because it's a more recent obsession of mine over the last year, fishing tours on Lake Ruth I think is a phenomenal idea. If there are ways to make it safer, I'd be happy.
Thank you, Manuel. Helen, I see a hand up.
Yeah.
Go
so
for it.
I think Mario brought a great idea and a good use for that dog that is underutilized. And maybe with the help of Manuel, having the right processes so that it's safe for the kids. I like the idea. My only concern, to be honest, is there alligators in that lake or canal?
Yes, there is alligators.
We're going to have to figure that out. But it's,
yeah. Well, truthfully, one of
idea.
The second time I went to the lake, I stepped on a water moccasin, which was, I saw my life flash before my eyes.
Wow.
But yeah, it's dangerous to cross the street, right? As far as what I've heard in some of the topics in this meeting. So
So to that point, so I've been to Olita Park and I done kayaking and all that. So how do they control it there? Or maybe that's some of the fine prints that I signed I didn't read. How do you control the wildlife?
Actually,
Well,
Manuel, let me
can.
answer that. Hey, so maybe we can put a few of these new signs out there, that says, be careful with the alligators. I'll put my son pointing to an alligator out there.
If it wasn't for that, I think it's a good idea. That lake is just sitting there and the dock is there. Nobody's using it, other than fishing. But yeah, that's the only concern I have.
I think it's a good consideration. I think it might involve maybe paddling the lake a little bit more, as far as, something that I can do, paddle the lake a little bit more and see if it's something viable, if it's maybe perhaps too much
of a safety issue.
Liability as far as putting a lot of people out in the water, especially younger children as well, because that is something that I focus on as far as families and anywhere from 2 years old and up, they participated, and a lot of them can even apply the concept. So for a 5-year-old to go kayaking, never by himself, of course, always with an adult, right? There is that chance.
Thank you, Manuel. Helen, Robert, any more feedback?
I'll echo what others have said. I agree. I think we should use that space. It's definitely underutilized. I have my own kayak. I'd love to bring it out there and kayak around town. So I'm for this. Granted, I've kayaked with alligators, but they were smaller size. So I don't feel that risk as an issue, just based on my experience and what I've been told. How rare they are, how they tend not to bother humans.
Right.
But maybe we can get a more authoritative, like an expert to just talk about that, because I'm sure that's going to be a safety concern for a lot of parents in town. So I guess that would be the only thing. But I think we should definitely go forward with this. What specifically is the program that we're trying to do right now? Is it just to go to homes, private homes, and have those that with access, or is it a combination of private homes and also using the dock area?
I think it's a.
I think what I'm trying to go for now is just, you know, being able to use the marina and having a company there to provide us with the paddle boards and the kayaking.
Yeah, so I think to Mara's point, it's more of a general. It didn't matter if I lived in a, you know, let's say I live on a lake, but I wanted to go over there and, you know, and use it. I have the option, so I don't.
You have the option to use the if for instance, Helen, you have your own kayak. If that marina would be open, you have the ability to go over there, put your kayak in the water, and so on. So, you know, that's one of the points that I'm trying to make across, as well as trying to accommodate the rest of the residents that don't have kayaks or paddleboards.
Yeah, if I may, to Helen's point, I would like to be able to do both. So in the case that I was allocated a space and I was hosting my operation there and I had a set schedule of times, within that time, if someone who lived in the community nearby wanted 2 double kayaks and 1 paddleboard, while I was there, I would be able to, or I should be able to, right, go and deliver such said pieces to the person's home, while operations were also happening there. So delivery is something that's part of the service. If someone in the immediate area wanted a kayak or paddleboard delivered to their house, they can definitely have that done, as well as, you know, used from the location that's at the Optimus Park.
I think I'd like us to maybe do a pilot, like a small pilot of this. Maybe like one day, set aside a couple of hours, reservations only. That way, you know, we're adhering with social distancing and stuff, but giving residents the opportunity to rent and experience and try to get their feedback and see like, okay, is this something that is viable for the community that others would like? I think it's also worth mentioning, you know, our homeowners and commercial, you know, individuals, are they going to be displeased with this and get their input? But I'm in favor of having a pilot program and having like a small scale event.
All right,
I'd be happy to provide the equipment for the event, whatever date you guys want to come up with. I'd be happy to make it happen.
Thank you. Robert, did you have anything to add?
Was looking forward to those water moccasins. You know,
Oh no! I hope that's the last one I ever see or step on.
How big was it?
It was very small. It was maybe 5 inches. It was like a baby.
Oh, it's not bad.
Oh, you were lucky.
Yeah.
Question: do you know the current hours of operation of the marina? Because I know it's run by the Parks Department, I think, but I don't know, because we have used it, like I said, twice or 3 times for the fishing tournament, till we moved it to the other lake. But the place is fenced up, and so you need to have someone from the town to come in and open up. So we have to check with the town about, you know, how to use the facility.
Thank you. Marlene?
Thank you. I find it fascinating. I love kayaking and paddleboarding, and I've done the full moon tours, which were amazing. How much is this going to cost our residents to take advantage of the tours or renting the kayaks or the deliveries? What kind of price schedules are you proposing?
As far as pricing goes, hard to pinpoint an actual number, but the average price point at my other location is $50, and that's for 2 hours. I can't particularly compare. I mean, on my website now, live, you'll see 3 county locations, all of which have different time intervals with different pricing attached. I would have to look at the numbers and make projections in terms of what's feasible, right? But I would imagine anywhere from $25 to $50 for an identical time span, if not more time. So in the case where It costs $50. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, don't quote me, but I think $25 for an hour to an hour and a half is something that you can kind of, that can be looked at as the main option that residents would have. Something around $25, I would imagine. Anything higher would be for extended time or for a specialty service like a lesson or a tour.
Just to answer your question about the
Thank you.
the marina times, from what is posted on the marina, it says only available times are Saturday and Sunday right now, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's how little we use the marina.
Wow.
9 a.m. to 1
someone
p.m.
actually
9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sundays. And it says hours may change or vary.
I'm gonna be honest. I've only seen it used for town events, and I saw it used and the food and wine festival as well. So, is it actually open? Does anyone know if people actually go there during that?
It's always
I've rode-
closed. Every time
I've
I
rode
go
my-
by there, it's closed.
I've rode my bike through there, and to be quite honest with you, I always see it locked. I don't think that somebody's actually physically opening it and having it accessible for somebody to come. I think it's one of those where you call ahead and say, hey, can somebody open the marina for me, and then they'll open it. It may be open. I've never seen it open myself.
It says if you're interested in fishing during the posted hours, please call. There's a phone number, but
There's your
that's
answer.
about it. There's your answer. So you have to obviously make an appointment if you want to use the marina. So obviously
Yeah,
we need to.
the dock is not staffed, so it's by reservation, so you have to.
All right, Manuel, I do have one last question. I'm sure you've gone through the process of signing up with each municipality that you provide your service with. You know, in a really short, as short as you can possibly explain, what do you see that process to be? Is this a 20-month process, or now that you know how it works, it could be a 30-day process?
Well, the biggest part is the infrastructure. So the permitting required and the zoning to operate my type of business, which is marine-related commercial, which can only be operated out of a marina or an area zoned for such. So I see it quite simple. Whatever local administration you have for as far as a local business tax, that would be probably my first step if Miami Lakes had something of the sort. But otherwise, because you guys have the marina and it's permitted, I think that would, I wouldn't know what, as a municipality, Miami Lakes would ask of me. But yeah, having the dock is really the biggest hurdle.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have any other questions? All right, Mario, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, so I would like to make a motion to present the council with I would say with the idea of contracting iPaddle to utilize the Miami Lakes Marina.
All right, I'll second that motion. Open for discussions. Any additional discussion on this item?
Yeah, do we want to say like specifically for when? Maybe give them a little bit more direction?
At the next council meeting?
I would say at the next council meeting, I say we could present it to them then.
No, I mean like what we would be, what kind of services and, you know, is it going to be like a...
At the moment,
He needs to provide a proposal. He needs to submit a proposal.
Absolutely. Well, I've submitted a preliminary one that hopefully everyone gets a chance to look at, but I'd be happy to create one that's more in depth with any other.
I would go with the motion, if you don't mind, Mario, adding to your motion what Helen said for a pilot. You know, and whatever that pilot means, of course, you know, he'll provide another proposal. and then that's what we'll provide, we'll present it to the council.
Okay, so,
I'm sorry, Helen, that was about right, where you propose a pilot and see how that goes, and then go from there?
Yes.
okay, so let me amend my proposals to, so I propose that we present to the council a pilot kayak and paddleboard service at the Miami Lakes Marina to see future
Utilization of the marina?
yes, yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Again, any other additional comments? You do? Marlene, microphone?
Mr. Chair, one of the things that takes a long time is to start up a business and get people to start coming into it. So when you do a pilot, you get a very few people, and then the word starts going on, the word starts going out. So if you're just going to judge the commencement of a business by a pilot, it's not really going to be indicative. I know that they have several, because I've been on their kayak and paddleboarding tours, and it took me a year to realize that behind my condo they have this, and I didn't even know they were there. And we do this in our lake.
I thought of something just now. How about if we do a lake awareness
hold on,
event and
Felicia,
this becomes part of the activity?
Felicia, I'm sorry. Marlene was talking. Do you mind giving her one moment, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that I think is important, and Mario, thank you. This is spot on. This is using something in our city that we're not using at all. And I know it's kind of scary to go east, but it's not that bad to go west on our lake. But one of the things that I think is important is allow the company to come up with a business plan, and allow the company to present that business plan to the city for the utilization of the park. But just to put it in as a pilot, I think it's unfair to any business when they're starting off to say, hey, we're just going to try it out for a while. If it doesn't work out, they just cancel the contract and move on, and it didn't work out for either side. But let's give them the rightful time to really enhance and promote their business.
I agree. Definitely the pilot should not be more weekly. We'll leave it up to you, Manuel.
We can hear.
Also, it's a business decision for you, because we don't want to.
Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, there's a mic. I agree with Marlene, but we don't want to either just throwing it out and say, okay, we're going to give you 2 weeks to see if this works out or not. We'll leave it up to you, Manuel, to bring out whatever time you need to make sure that we make this a successful business and service for the town residents. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Felicia, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was thinking of tying this with, we haven't done a lake awareness event. I know we did it with the fishing tournament, but since we cannot, I don't know, with the social distancing that's going on, because we had our fishing tournament last June, but we didn't have the neighborhood improvement committee participating for the lake awareness because everybody was fishing in different lakes. It was totally different this year. So I think if we can use, like I said, the event, the lake awareness event tied to this activity, I think it may bring more people, because we got a lot of people last time at the fishing tournament, and not this year. They won last year, and I think, I don't know, it may work. I don't know.
I agree. I think it's a good way, but that's all the way to June. I think we're looking more.
I know. No, but we can do it. We will not call it lake awareness, but we can do it something. We can call it something.
Okay, great.
If we cannot do our bike, we can do anything. At least we can do something.
All right. Any additional comments, discussion? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
No. All right. The ayes have it. Manuel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
we really
Manny.
appreciate it. We'll
Hey,
be,
my pleasure, guys.
We'll be in contact
I'll be in
with
touch
you.
with you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so let's move on to the last item, and I promise I will make it quick. This is not a long one.
It's
6D. Thank you, Mario, again for bringing this up. We appreciate it. This is a great idea, and definitely we're looking forward to utilizing it. And yes, there's just alligators out there, but I'm sure we can make the best of it. So the last item is Committee Rules Advisory Board. So this is quick. There appears to be some issues or there needs to be some revisions to these committee rules. And the town council is going to have one or two, I don't know, workshops to help with the revision of the committee rules. But in my opinion, one individual that should participate in this review and this proposed should be committee members or committee chairs. Because we're the ones that get affected the most by these rules and times and how many times you got to show up at a meeting and what are the reasonings and so on and so forth. So my quick here is just to propose to bring up to the to the council to say that we recommend to put together an advisory board or committee that will compose of no less than 3, including town attorney, and no more than 5 that can help in this process. Last time this process was conducted, I was not very happy. We were given a set of rules, and I spoke about it in the committee chair meetings, and I said, why was our input not requested? We're the ones that come here every day, every month in, month out. So, and it's okay, staff put together these rules. I think this time around, we should definitely have a say in it, so that's basically my propose. And for the sake of time, I'm going to motion to propose to the town council that there be an advisory board put together with minimum, no less than 3 members, including town attorney, and no more than 5.
Please, before you write that, please make sure you put in there in a committee advisory board, not just an advisory board. So
I said committee, right, no, committee rules advisory board, that's what I.
So you wanted to advise on the committee rules.
Correct, on the revision, on the, on that.
And I'll second.
Who second? Javier did? All right, now we're open for comments.
I have a question. Is this 3 individuals per committee? Up to 3 people per committee?
No, it's a total. It's a total of minimum 3 and 5. Now, how is town staff going to select those? If it's going to be, hey, look, send me your name. I don't know that people want to really volunteer for that. I would personally would. If they get more than 5, then at that point they'll need to come up with some kind of, lottery system, and then choose those 4 committee members or chairs and 1 a staff member or attorney, town attorney.
Rudy?
Yes?
I think if we're going to do an advisory board, it should consist of, in my opinion, either a member of the committee and the chairs, which is basically more like a chairs committee meeting, because I think the chairman is the one who's going to enforce these rules to the members, right?
That's correct, but okay. I did not want to monopolize the process, and I wanted to give opportunities to committee members, that would like to participate, because they're also affected. That's why I didn't just put it for chairs. I left it up to chairs and committee members who would like to participate in this.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, but I think chairs need to be in that too.
Of course. All right. Any additional? All right. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Aye. No? The ayes have it. Announcements. The only announcement I have is that I miss every single one of you. So I am happy to see you guys. Those of you in person. Tony, thank you so much for coming out here. We appreciate it. For those of you virtually, Helen, Robert, Jesus, we appreciate it coming out. And last but not least, I appreciate everyone's support in understanding why and coming together as a committee on why the Neighborhood Improvement Committee did not meet or has not met for the past 6 or 7 or 8 months. In my opinion, and everybody that I've spoken personally agree that we had at hand a lot more important things than meeting. And honestly, and the bike ride, it's my item, but I have to say it, riding bikes, okay, in the neighborhood. We needed to concentrate on our families. We needed to concentrate on our jobs, keeping everyone safe, and in the same way, our neighbors. And utilize those times in targeting what was important. And I'm glad that everyone has supported the idea of saying, hey, look, there's no need. Our committee, in our opinion as well, did not find the need, nor did we have any emergency items really to meet and discuss. So I appreciate your support, and we'll continue moving forward. And I'm very, very happy to see every one of you, either be virtually or in person, and looking forward to, I guess, a new way of life for now. So anybody else has any comments, announcements?
Are we meeting again soon?
Helen is like, hey, listen, man, I like this vacation. You know, what are we gonna do? So December definitely, we don't have anything really to meet, but I'll keep you posted, and we'll take it from now. I mean, we'll go from there.
The only thing I see us meeting
Rudy,
again.
question. Do we need to be present when they read the first reading of this landscape code amendment or whatever?
We do not. We do not be present. We're going to send a communication to the town council, basically just saying, hey, look, we're thumbs up on our end, and each individual is going to go ahead and email staff and the mayor and providing your feedback. But we do not need to be present.
Okay.
The only time that we might need to be present is for the wrapping of the traffic
For the
signs.
what?
The wrapping of the traffic signs.
Yes.
So that might be the only thing we might need to meet
Right.
in December. So.
And that would probably be an on-site meeting for the wrapping when that comes along. But other than that, it seems like it's very challenging to get 7 members in person. And I appreciate every single one of you who took the time. And I know that some of you that were virtually wanted to make an attempt to come out. But of course, when you saw the 7, you said, hey, Rudy, I'm good. So we appreciate you as well. And we thank you at least for taking the time. But, I love you guys. And honestly, I'm glad that we're able to meet in person. And just, we'll continue to do what we do best.
Thank you.
All right? Anything else?
Yeah.
All right, with that, I motion.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:56.
I second.
Second by Mario.
Wow.
All right,
I'm
any
glad-
discussion?
I'm glad
No?
I'm doing
All in
this
favor, say
virtually.
aye.
Let's discuss it real quick.
Against? No?
Whoa,
The ayes have
discuss
it.
it.
Guys, happy Thanksgiving. Many blessings. Willie, you're the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank
Willie,
you so
thank
much
you for coming,
for
Willie.
the ongoing support.
Appreciate you being on Zoom.
Take care, guys. Bye, Helen. Bye, Jesus.
Okay.
Later,
Love you
Robert.
guys.
Bye.